I'm going to basically deal around the coaching side of things. Good? Yes, it went. There we go. It's just time delay on it in Australia. Just going to talk about coaching, a bit of an overview of what we're doing, an introduction to CPD. I am Mark Centre. I'm the Coaching Development Manager for Scottish Rowing. I shall give you some details at the end should you wish to contact me about anything that we've discussed or presented. So the outline of this session, we'll look at the process that we've gone through, where we are now, coaching matrix and pathway, and then we'll talk about CPD, continued personal development for coaches. The main parts, I came into Scottish Rowing just over 12 months ago and looked at the strategic plan, and there's two parts that jumped out at me which were relevant to coaching. And under the club's banner, provide a quality experience. Coaches, in my opinion, are the ones that are going to drive that within clubs. The first person that contact that comes into your club, the first person they're going to come into contact with will be their coach. And it's that experience that they get with that coach will support the retention and growth of clubs, to retention of participants. Okay, the other part of the strategic plan is around people. We need a strong, sustainable body of coaches. And we also got officials, volunteers, supported by a clear training infrastructure. I hope I'm going to address that today, and you can see where we've gone in terms of our training infrastructure and supporting our coaches. However, there was no coaching pathway for coaches in Scottish Rowing that I could see when I came along. And indeed, it's a bit loose if you actually look at coaching pathways in British Rowing. If you start from an entry-level coach, where do you go next? How do you progress? What levels do you have to meet to go to the next stage, if that's what you want to do? If you want to progress as a child's coach, become the best child coach out there, how do you do that? There is no actual mapping to tell you what courses, etc. you need to do to achieve these things. We carried out a coaching survey. Some of you probably took part in that. It was anonymous, so I can't tell you who did take part in it. But however, we did manage to get this number of people taking part. So there was UKCC level 3 and 2 coaches, 20. The old Bick and Rick, 5. Bronze, silver, gold, 6. And people with no actual qualification, 7 people responded to our coaching survey. We looked at what barriers, we asked that question, what were the barriers of people attending UKCC courses? If we're going to progress in Scottish Rowing, it's important that we get up to the current level standard of coaching. People still sit with the old qualification. How do we get those people to get across onto UKC standard, which will then fit with our mapping process? The main ones that jumped out was cost and the availability of courses. Time was obviously another constraint on people. However, cost was a major one for me, and we're trying to address that at the moment. So from that survey we sent out some job adverts for volunteers to get involved in a group, which was a coaching development group, coaching workforce development group. We had a great response, and that group has now been formed with this remit: to provide Scottish Rowing membership with a voice to inform, input and shape coaching and workforce issues within the Scottish Rowing community. So it's your voice. Every area has a representative on the coaching and workforce development group. So it's important that if you have concerns or there's something you want to bring it up with your rep. I will circulate that information. It's probably been a bit quiet at the moment, because all we've been doing at the moment is actually looking at what coaching is in Scottish Rowing and how we can actually shape that to support our coaches better. We have met 4 times, and it was formed in September last year. So where are we now? We've completed an online survey for coaches and even people wishing to get involved in coaching. We formed the Coaching and Workforce Advisor Group. We have identified gaps in coaching, and we've identified gaps in tutor and assessor requirements. We need a workforce that's going to be able to deliver for us in Scotland, and we're not relying on British Rowing tutors coming up, and we're working around their calendar. So this is what we've come up with. Can everybody see that? I'll probably jog to the back now so I can laser people. Just to explain what we've got here, if everybody can see, I'll just go. We have no entry level course. There isn't a UKCC level 1 at all for rowing. That's something Scottish Rowing are keen to support and look at. We can't progress that any further at the moment. We have a national source group which is British Rowing membership or affiliate groups, so that's ourselves, Welsh Rowing and British Rowing under the form of England. And we're looking to either develop that in that group or as Scottish Rowing, we will develop that ourselves. To get a UKCC level 1 course, what does it look like? Don't know yet. We are aware that there are prerequisites to level 2. It could be that. It could just be the prerequisites, the safety parts that's required to become a rowing coach. So that could be capsize, safeguarding, first aid. Can we get somebody in and out of the boat safely? Can we work under the guidance of a level 2 coach? So it could be something as loose as that. It becomes a formal qualification within the SQA framework. That will become the rowing coach here. There is this part here which is CPD. It's not too clear on that, and again I will send these through to anybody. This will actually become a website page so you can all see what it is. The CPD there will take you to fixed seat. So fixed seat being skiff rowing or indeed adaptive rowing, which we have up here. We also have an element of CPD should you go on to become a touring coach. Is it a touring coach or is it an instructor? That's something else we're going to discuss at National Source Group. CPD elements here will take you to become a level 2 coach. So it's prior learning to becoming level 2. So it might not be, well, as it stands at the moment, you have to complete your safeguarding, your first aid and your capsize. It could be other elements. It could be how to coach to support you to get there. And then the CPD elements to take you into becoming an adaptive rowing coach, vice versa coming from fixed seat. We also have the arrows here, which is CPD, taking you to level 3. Level 3, we won't control the Scottish Rowing, that still becomes a British Rowing course. However, we can guide coaches at a specific learning that they need to get to level 3 standard before they go on the course. The parts on the left hand side here, these are Sports Scotland CPD programmes, which Rory will cover after we have our little coffee break. As I said, this will become a website page. So basically, as a coach or a potential coach, you basically go and click on each part and it will come up with a job description or a course descriptor, and it will give you split out information on when the courses are, where they are, who's delivering them, etc. Some of the courses are going to be online. I'll come on to it in a bit, but we've managed to secure a deal with the company that does online generic courses of CPD that we've signed up to. We've bought a number of licenses off, so there is the opportunity to go on and do the online learning as well. Has anybody got any questions on that? If you can see it all right, it's a bit rubbish.
Right, you've still got a prior learning line at the bottom there.
Yeah, prior learning, that's something we are trying to think, what does that look like? Now some of the CPD online stuff, it could be that. It could just be things like safeguarding, first aid. We need to get to see what does that look like?
It seems to be sort of quite blurring between those bottom level, or not blurring, but repetition of those bottom level.
Yeah, that's what I said. Once we understand what that looks like, we can say there's prior learning. But we do actually have the buddy book at the moment, which is almost like an entry level. It's a indoor rowing program for kind of like sports leaders. So it could be something like that becomes prior learning. So it's coaching. If we think about coaching rather than rowing, what do we need to become a coach? What tools, the how-tos and what-tos. So that's what these parts are basically going to be looking like. That's the CPD, the prior learning, etc. This is the sport-specific side of things. Does that make sense?
Going up the way to the other level, level 3 and level 2.
Yeah.
There's always been talk about running convert. I'm at the old silver award.
Yeah.
So how do we get that transfer, or are they just going to carry on recognising that you've got those, but there's gaps in it? There's just nothing.
There is gaps.
Up-to-date stuff, material. I haven't got access to that.
This is something we're taking to the National Source Group, because it is something it's not a concern. It's more a case of it's people willing to convert to level 2. You shouldn't have to do an entire level 2 course if you're an equivalent qualification. However, there is additional learning, so it's maybe just a case you do the additional learning parts and evidence that, and that you then become certificate.
If that was online or
Yeah.
material like that,
Yeah,
fine.
and that makes perfect sense. So what we've got to go back to British Rowing and say, what is the transfer from the old qualification to the new? How much time does it take? It shouldn't be as costly as that currently stands. So you literally pay for the unit as opposed to the whole qualification and the certificate, which is totally out of our hands. That's down to the awarding bodies that charge that.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, just getting access to it.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, we'll take that to National Source Group.
And what Jockey was saying there, that's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That was talked about and
That's
nothing's
expanded.
progressed.
Yeah. I've actually seen a memorandum that came through from British Rowing, and it was exactly talking about the APL to go from one to the other. And you're right, it's been a bit woolly.
I've still got the paperwork from when we had a meeting like this, talking about what was the transfer, and
Yeah,
it's
It's
never
never happened.
yeah. Well, from our perspective, we're keen to get everybody at this level now to transfer the qualification across. So either we're going to work with British Rowing, or we can work with the SQA and we can do it standalone. But ideally, we do it with British Rowing.
Yeah. Could you do that level 3, level 2 upwards through SQA, or is that?
Level 2, we've had the board's blessing, if you like, to explore transferring the current level 2 to the SQA. It is already mapped. Rowing is mapped onto the SQA framework, so it's on the actual education framework for level 2 in rowing. There's a bit we have to go through which is called a subsidiary rights agreement, and that's between First for Sport, who effectively supply the resource, the coaching resource, and probably it's more being diplomatic with British Rowing to say we want to do this. However, there is the part that we need to keep our tutors up to date with courses. So anything, if the course content changes, we need them to be aware of that, and that's likely to be driven by British Rowing. In terms of the level 3, that we'll just leave that with British Rowing, because again, it's down to tutor workforce. We've probably got the capacity to deliver level 2, but probably not level 3 at this stage. In time, but at this stage. Okay, so just carrying on with CPD. It's a company called Learn to Coach that's developed over 20 online workshops. Workshops vary. They can be between an hour, they can be 2 hours, it could be 3 hours, depending on the workshop you want to do. They cover pretty much every element of how to coach. So it's not specifically around what to coach. So if you go on there as a coach, it's being a bit holistic about your coaching, and it's analysing even different sports and different coaches in action to see what's good practice, what's bad practice. And the parts of Learn to Coach go all the way from, there's a bit about safeguarding to disability sports, to video analysis, to observation and analysis, all the parts of how to coach. So that's what Learn to Coach does. It's an online resource. We will have this up on our website, mapped in with basically a coaching page on our website. And it's basically a case of you go on, if you've registered as one of our, which we're going to come on later, you'll need to see on the agenda, licensing, which I'm not going to go too much into detail at the moment, but if you register as a licensed coach with us, we can support payment of the courses. The courses vary between £10 and £15, and through that you'll get a certificate, and that's suitable evidence for us as part of your CPD, which you can provide to Scottish Rowing and say, yeah, I'm up to date, I'm up to speed, so on and so forth. There is an example of a Learn to Coach, so that's kind of how to build rapport. So it just goes through what the module is, and it tells you the suitability. So this type of one is a module that's suitable for standards of level 1 and level 2 coaches. Like I said, we've got a library of about 20 plus courses, which again we'll be putting out on our websites and for your information as well. So go ahead, get involved and get as many as you want done. It's a very good resource. Additional to that, we've still got the British Rowing one. This one specifically is around level 2 coaches. I'd argue that some of that's around level 1 as well, kind of CPD, or we might incorporate some of those units into a level 1 course. So that's your basic rigging, British rowing technique, coxswain steering, capsize recovery, coaching rows with disability, etc. So these are British rowing CPD workshops that are currently on their system. Again, we need to develop a workforce of coach educators that can deliver these. So what we want to actually get to is a full calendar in Scotland of CPD workshops in every region, if we can get there. So everybody has the opportunity to access these workshops. These are face-to-face 3-hour workshops, and generally they come in around £25 a workshop. That's a British rowing standard. We don't own them, they own them, so basically we buy the resource off of them and deliver. That's where we're looking to work with that. Has anybody got any further questions? Okay, I'm just going to go back to this diagram here. So what will happen is when we go into these CPD, if you click on these bars here, it will flick up. Oops, go back. It'll basically flick up this type of thing here. You'll click on it, it'll tell you what the course is, where it is, how much it's going to cost, who your tutor is or who your main contact is for that course. If that makes sense. Does that clear it up a bit more now? So, yeah.
Mark, something on the previous one. What are your expected levels of outcomes in terms of what level of crews might you be expected to coach for each of those levels? Going back.
This one here?
That one, yeah, that's right. What level of competencies, outcomes are you looking at for those levels?
This diagram here, we've actually come up with an athlete pathway. I think that's probably what you're getting at. And the athlete pathway is going to sit to the side of this, and what basically these arrows will come in. It's just not ready yet. It's nearly there, it's just not ready yet. I think it's going to the board today. As part of it's going to the board. We've got the basically the adaptive to para rowing pathway, which is exactly the same as what our athlete pathway looks like. So this could be, look around here, beginner type school, and this going towards more advanced. If you're going to be a sculling coach, the stuff you need to be on ICPD that will fit in here. I want to be a sculling coach, well, attend a sculling workshop, etc. So this will all fit in here. So it should all map and be systematic to what you want to be. Part of the other stuff we need to do is identify regional coach mentors. So the regional coach mentor will be based in each region. It could be staff, it could be a volunteer with coaching knowledge, and that person's responsibility would be liaise with coaches to find out what CPD is relevant to what they're going to do. So it's not a case of, I'm a coach, I'm going to do all these 20 workshops, are they actually relevant to what I want to achieve as a coach? So it's somebody,
what the club is looking for.
Exactly, so it's somebody to actually sound off and say, well, I want to be a level 2 good junior coach. Okay, you need to do your level 2 course, you need to do these elements of CPD, and that will help you along your journey. I want to become a performance coach, well, you need to do that part. So that's where we need to get to. It's more of a system of support and guidance for coaches to put them down the line they need to go to.
Can I just add to that, Mark? I mean, the reality with the way UKCC is structured for rowing at the moment is it goes up the performance pathway. So we're not going to be able to diverge hugely from that. You know, level 2 is that sort of, not quite sessional, but it qualifies you to coach a session. Level 3 goes more into the sort of longer term periodization. So by nature, it is going to go up the performance pathway as you progress from level 1 to 2 to 3, because that's the model that we're in.
But the two should be integrated together, athlete pathway and your coaching.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what we are working on that. This is just an update of where we are.
Absolutely
at the
agree.
moment.
And I don't think there's any, I mean, as Amanda says, at the moment it is pretty elitist in terms of being a coach. If I want to be a level 3 coach, it means I'm a performance coach. Is that reality? Or does that mean that we can have level 3 coaches that are experts in kids development? So it's kind of addressing what that looks like as well. And the other reason I think we're looking for this level 1 here is if we go back to the coaching survey, cost was a massive thing, cost in time, and also the availability of courses. Level 1 courses generally are 2 days, spread over 2 weekends, could be 4 weekends, could be whatever. It's an entry level course. It's less onerous if you get a parent volunteer coming in and saying, I want to be involved in a club, I fancy having a go at coaching. However, okay, be a coach, go and do a level 2 course. That could be too much for any parent volunteer just willing to come and have a go at helping you out and supporting your coaches. So that's why we're looking at this level 1, an entry level course that actually means something.
Mark, is it just aimed at adults or at the lower end, the UKCC level 1? Would you be developing it along the lines of allowing 16 plus?
Unfortunately, the criteria of education, you have to be 18, minimum
So
age.
the swimming UKCC level 1 is 16 plus.
I don't know. We have a Sport Scotland-y coachy person might be able to answer that question.
Yeah, I think it is in swimming's case. I think it's depending on the lead body. UK who set that kind of agenda. So the British rowing in this case.
I think there might be potential for it to be younger. The restriction around a level 2 was based on the safeguarding content that was in there at the time, and it was felt that actually if you're qualifying someone to lead a session, that you're actually putting a minor in a potential situation where they're at risk if they're dealing perhaps with a group of parents, and that was the decision on the level 2. So it really depends what that level 1 qualification is qualifying them to do. So there's a bit of circularity there, I think, as we move down the route of what does that look like and what's it qualifying people to do.
But saying that, the prior learning part, we were talking about the buddy book training, stuff like that's pitched towards sports leader age group. So that's given them some tools of how to coach and a bit of technique, but that's around indoor rowing. So we could develop some kind of water resource similar to the buddy book, which would be 16, so it's almost like a sport leader type course. I think you're right, because some people pick up a passion for coaching at quite a young age and they're restricted because they can't get to an actual qualification until they're 18. So I think that's probably something, and that might be, like I said, what does this look like? And that just could be sports leader courses supporting their prior learning to becoming a coach.
Mark, are you able to expand a bit more on the coach-educator aspect and intentions for that? Because you referred to that in terms of how you're going to deliver the modular element.
We've got basically around a target. We need to get to about 5 tutors in order for us to become totally sustainable in terms of our tutor workforce. Currently we run 2 level 2 courses a year. Whether that's enough, it probably is at the moment. We're never over subscribed. Whilst we have filled the course today, we didn't get any more than the 12 candidates that have turned up for this particular course. We want to get to a point where our membership grows, that we're going to need more coaches, therefore we're going to have to put more courses on. Currently running 2 courses, 5 tutors, that's 2 tutors on a course, and that gives us an assessor and an IV basically. IV is an internal verifier, and they all have to be separate people. So that gives us capacity to deliver a course, and 2 courses a year isn't going to kill them off in terms of we're expecting them to do every weekend. However, when we get to the CPD type stuff, our 5 tutors is going to be enough to be delivering that. If we're looking at a weekend course, course just about every weekend or midweek, whatever, we probably need to expand. But currently we've got a target of 5 tutors, assessors, and they'll be regionally based. So we'll probably have 2 based down here. There's a couple we're looking to get up north as well, and then there's one over in Edinburgh at the moment as well. So we're looking at basically looking at the regions, what is our requirement for tutoring at the moment, but that will expand. And we're very fortunate that Sport Scotland supply free tutor training, so we can get anybody who wants to become a tutor. They just have to be level 2 or above qualified, and we can get them through a tutoring course. Is there anything else on the coaching and coaching CPD? I hope you find it useful. I said at the moment it's probably a little bit woolly until you actually see it live on the website. So as soon as we get it live on the website, I've got all your details, I'll be firing out, and it'll be promoted through our Facebook and on the website as well. go in and have a look. Please come back, feedback, anything. I think that's really important. Some of the learn to coach stuff might seem very, very simple to some people, but also it could also become a prior learning standard. So please go and have a look and feedback to us. It's really important that we're not just going out and saying, well, that's what we think. It's what the needs and wants of coaches are. I think it's probably more important. So go and have a look. If there's stuff missing, tell us and we'll source it and put it on. Out with that, there is obviously the Sports Coach UK courses as well, which is fairly generic, but you can attend those as well, and that's out with what we do. That's probably more local authority run.
Is it live on the website now?
Not yet. Not yet.
But can we send a link out to people who are here once it is live?
Yeah.
And we can have a look.
Absolutely, yeah.
With everyone.
Absolutely.
If you want to receive any of the stuff once it's live, or the links, we could just make sure we've got your email address and we can get that out to you.
I mean, I'm at the stage now where I'm happy to email. It'll be a big email, but I can certainly email the stuff out just so you can actually look at it and you can see what's sitting underneath it. It is all pretty much mapped on, so it is as a PDF at the moment. You click on it and it'll flick up what courses and what have you at the moment.
Just taking Amanda's point about contacting coaches, do we have an up-to-date list of coaches and their qualifications?
No. And that's one thing we are addressing. Part of the coaching survey, we're trying to weed out, because it did come out with email addresses. We're trying to identify the coaches and the qualification. We didn't get 100% of the coaching workforce response to that survey, which is fine. We've probably got about just over 50%. So we've managed to identify some coaches and where they are and what qualification they are. But a lot of that information is held by British Rowing. So for example, you go and do a level 2 course, you register on the British Rowing website for level 2, and it's sucked into their system. We've managed to, well, we thought we had, agree with British Rowing that you could go in with your Scottish Rowing membership and not become a British Rowing member. You just put your Scottish Rowing membership number in and then it access you to row, how, etc. But that would put you on a Scottish database, but it didn't happen. So that's something we're trying to address with British Rowing. If they're capturing our data, we need that. We need to know where our coaches are, who they are, because that then helps us to contact them and say, you're a level 2 course, what do you want to progress as? We recommend so-and-so CPD, but without that, it's difficult.
And also information about future training courses and do they want to book on?
Exactly. I mean, that's stuff that we can fire out all the time. We get the information from local authorities as well, of all the generic CPD, the Sports Coach UK type stuff. So they put their booklets out every year of what their courses look like. We can send that out to coaches, but currently we haven't got that data. We have some, but we haven't got that much. So we need to pick up on that, and maybe it's something, if you guys can go back to your clubs, who your qualified coaches are, or even the people that are interested in coaching, and send their information through to us, and then we can start contacting them and putting stuff out.
And also what's on the database is wrong for some people. Found I was put down for a course I'd never ever done.
Yeah.
It's an exercise we've done a couple of times, and it's only ever as good as the point at which you do it. As soon as you've done it, it's almost redundant within a couple of weeks, because it's so, people do dip in and out, or they do courses, or they move clubs or stop coaching. So it's a bit of a challenge, but I think some of the things Mark will talk about later are how we're going to try and address some of that.
It may well be that the website, coaching part of the website becomes passworded, so we can actually start getting people's information. It doesn't cost anything to go on, but we just say, can you come and put your details in? At least we know either you're interested, or we can put in there, are you a level 2 coach, are you an old standing coach, etc. And then we can actually contact you and say, we recognise that you're old quality, you need to do this APL to get up to a level 2 or level 3. So it'll be just worth trying to get that information in, so we actually know what people are, what they want to do. I think that's probably as important. What do you want to do as a coach? That's my email at the bottom. Please take it down, and please get in touch with me if you've got anything about coaching. Very, very keen to support and grow our coaching workforce and the knowledge base we've got out there.